Mr. Chairman, there was another question about whether we will not be taking over, or whether the legislature will not be taking over the job of the court if you accede to our request to review the regime of revocation of license. Let me just make it a little clearer. We are not saying that access to court should be denied any person who feels that a banking license has been irregularly withdrawn by Central Bank. That's not what we are saying. We are saying their right to access to court should be unfettered, as the Constitution has guaranteed it. But what should happen is, when a court finds that, yes, in this particular case, this license has been irregularly withdrawn, we are saying that the relief that the court should order should be monetary compensation, not to order Central Bank to issue or reissue or restore the license that it has withdrawn, because that has huge implications for the financial system. That's the point we are making. Not that anybody who is aggrieved will not have the right to approach a court to tell us that we have wrongly, the court might find, and in fact it is only in 2 cases in my own experience that the court has failed to agree with us that the license has been appropriately revoked. In vast majority of cases, the court has actually supported us. But in 1 or 2 cases, they have found that, no, we did not do it properly. That is fine. But what we are saying is, given the net effect of the order to restore the banking license, which we are still facing and grappling with up to today as we even speak, we believe that another approach would be appropriate. That's the point we are making, not to deprive access. As you all know, sir, I think cryptocurrency is still something that we really need to be careful about. We need to continue to study it. There had been all this lobbying to make it become something every jurisdiction will recognize. Some jurisdictions have given limited recognition to it. And, you know, when there was upswing and the value was increasing almost on a daily basis, you know, almost every jurisdiction was persuaded to put in place some kind of regulations to at least control it to some extent. But our own approach in CBN had been to be a bit cautious. Let's not jump into something and start regulating it where we really don't understand all the nuances associated with it. And you had the statement of the governor about 2 weeks ago about the need for us to really be very careful about these things, because we really don't know where it is going. And just as if he spoke from the oracle, a week later, it crashed completely. How many millions of dollars have been lost through this Bitcoin thing in the last 10, 15 days? Huge and huge. And who are the people? Yes, if it were only the rich people, if it's only the rich people, you might say, okay, they saw it coming, they should have known better. But you know that when people think of anything that can give them a profit, the problem and the issue really that everybody should keep asking, which is called financial literacy, is that look at the environment where you are. Nigeria, for example, what is the average range of return on investment? If the return on investment in Nigeria, generally in whatever sector, real sector, capital market, money market, foreign exchange market, if the range is between 20 and 35%, if anybody then tells you in Nigeria that this investment will give you 50, 75%, you have to be wary. But unfortunately, people sometimes are the architect of their own problems, because everybody just looks at that, and because it is good and attractive, they take the sayer as being a saint. It's only when they get their hands burnt. So right now, we'll still continue to look and examine and study the issue of Bitcoin before we decide on the exact position that Central Bank will take. You mentioned that the penalty is not necessarily to the bank, but in appropriate cases, individuals, and we welcome that also, because again, that's part of what we are saying, that when you penalize the institution, it doesn't hurt anybody. In fact, the directors will just take from the bank and pay the penalty, and they still go, and they are the ones that enjoy the benefit or the return on whatever illegality they may have committed. So if we start looking at the individuals who have failed to exercise, due diligence or corporate governance, I think that would be very well in order, Mr. Chairman. Okay, again, ancillary to that is the question of daily sanctions. But the problem is the daily sanctions should just not be on the institution alone, because again, it is going to be like the same thing. But if it is the individuals that are responsible that will pay a specified sum of money and continue to pay another amount on a daily basis, so long as the problem remains unredressed, I think that will be a welcome development, where we continue to look for even stronger sanctions regime. We welcome all that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Johnson Akuwumi, Director of Legal Services Unit at the Central Bank of Nigeria, about the public hearing on the review of the Bank and Other Financial Institutions Act. Let's return to the market. We'll talk about the stock market after the break. But very quickly, just before we go, remind you what came late yesterday from Nigerian breweries. Q4 2017. These are some of the numbers we've been waiting for since the new year started. The earnings from listed companies, and this is Nigeria's largest brewing company, reporting a gross margin down 87 basis points year-on-year to 41%. Profit after tax grew 9% year-on-year to 9 billion, despite a marginal negative 1% year-on-year decline in sales. Nigerian breweries, despite these numbers, the profit before tax also missed estimates that at FBN Quest, but the company is still proposing a cash dividend of 3 naira 13 kobo per share, in line with some estimates of 3 naira 8 kobo. The proposed dividend is around 21% higher than the final payout of 2 naira 58 kobo for the year 2016, and that implies a yield of about 2.4%. All of this you continue to see in the news as we continue to do the program and get our regular news to you here on Channels Television Business News. Let's continue after the break.